In this video, I want to take a look at the different types of variables in Ruby: local, global, class, and instance variables. I've defined a basic cat class, which has a name variable, which is an instance variable because of the @ sign in front of it. And this initialize method gets called when I invoke the new method from the class on this cat class. So if I create a cat object down here, this string gets assigned to a local variable called n, and the n variable, the value of this variable, gets assigned to the instance variable name. After this method finishes, the n variable, which is a local variable, goes out of scope. So for all intents and purposes, it doesn't exist anymore. But the name variable exists for every object of the cat class which is instantiated. So if I have two cats, Felix and Fifi, these will be two separate objects, and each will have their own name instance variable. So that's instance variables and local variables. Now let's say I wanted to have a variable to keep track of the number of cats that have been created. In this case, I would create a class variable, and to create one I use two @ signs, and I have to initialize this variable when I declare it. I can use this operator to add the value of 1 to this variable. The alternative to writing this would be, some people like to write this out explicitly, but if you prefer a more concise version, you can use this. So this total variable, only one of these total variables exists for the entire cat class. So no matter how many cat objects I create, when I update this total, it's going to refer to the total number of cat objects that have been created for this class, whereas this name instance variable is specific to each object. Each object has their own name, whereas the class itself doesn't have a name, but it has a total. Now if I want to access the value of these variables, I can create a method. So I've created two methods. One is this name method, which returns the name instance variable, and the other is the cat.info method, which returns the total class variable. Whereas the name method gets invoked on an individual object, the info method gets invoked on the class, not on the object. So just as the total variable pertains to the class, the info method also pertains to the class. So let's see the output from the name method and the cat.info method. So we see the two names displayed, and the total number of cats which have been created is 2. So that's a brief explanation of how local, class, and instance variables are created. There's one more type, which in general it's not recommended to use. It's called a global variable. The scope of the global variable is the entire program. Suppose we wanted to define a global variable called likes milk, which is a Boolean variable. We initialize it to the value true because we're assuming that all cats like milk. However, if at some point in the program we change this to likes milk is equal to false and then print out the value of the variable here, we'll see that the final value of this variable is false. So a global variable is one that persists throughout a program, but in general it's recommended to try to use these sparingly because they can introduce bugs that can be hard to track down. So that's an overview of local, global, class, and instance variables.